So thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you to also the earlier panel. Some great discussions on investment decisions. I think highlighting not only the challenges that we are facing, but also the opportunities facing the shipping industry. I think nothing is more global than shipping, than ports and maritime, and these are the sectors that connect us all today. So in continuation from the last panel, I'm delighted to welcome Nitin Mathur, who is from Seer Marine. Nitin is the head of Commercial Maritime Management. It's a mouthful. And we at HFW are very proud to have a long connection with Seer Marine. Now, Seer Marine is not a traditional UAE ship owner that you may think of. When you think of a UAE ship owner, you might think of the likes of Emirat Maritime. You might think of the likes of TriStar E-Ships, the likes of Tomini, the gentleman on the previous panel. But you are the new kid on the block, Nitin. And 3 years ago, I was in my office. I got a call. I got a call from a UAE bank, and they said, "Look, Tien, we're looking at structuring something for a local owner." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "Can you dig out some information about them?" I said, "Yes, okay." They are looking at buying some gas tankers. And I said, "Okay, interesting. New builds?" "Yes, they are new builds." And I said, "What's the name?" And they said, "It's Seer Marine." And I said, Seer Marine, the defense contractors? And they said, "Yep." I said, Seer Marine, the luxury yacht managers? And they said, "Yep." And I said, "Okay." So fast forward 3 years down the line to today, you're the captain, you're in charge of the helm, and you have built a fleet of up to 16 vessels, modern tonnage, with 3 more scheduled for delivery this year. That, in my mind, is spectacular. My opening question to you, Nitin, is what makes a luxury yacht manager decide 3 years ago that we want to go into blue ocean commercial vessel ownership?
Thank you. Yes, we are indeed the new kid on the block. We did embark into shipping slightly over 3 years ago, but very pertinent question. We are mainly into defense work and into luxury yacht management. We got into shipping because our shareholders, they run multiple businesses. And during COVID times, they required their supply chains for some of those businesses to be preserved. And hence, Seer Marine, as one of the partners of IHC, we were asked to look after the supply chain. So we went in and bought 2 reefer ships because they also had supermarket chains and things like that, and a bulk carrier. And then the markets turned. So when the markets turned, that looked like a very good opportunity because we never...
So they turned up?
Yeah, they turned up. So and that time it was that we weren't really looking at shipping as a business, but just that when we never applied those ships into the local trades. They went into international waters and did exceptionally well. So that was the seed of the shipping journey. And then we, put our heads together, decided what segments we wanted to do, who did we want to partner with, and that was the start of our shipping journey.
Excellent. And you mentioned IHC. Who are IHC for our friends who are maybe traveling from abroad?
Right. So International Holding Company is the largest market cap company in ADX. I know for the uninitiated, in fact, before I came in, even I had not really done much research on them. They own more than 300 odd businesses of various types. I think 800 billion market cap. So we're very proud to have some very large shareholders behind us. And that has, to be honest, really helped us in our shipping journey.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So your portfolio at the moment is 16 vessels. What's your team like in Abu Dhabi? It seems like you run a relatively lean team. Is that right?
Totally. Tien has been part of our journey right from day one. We started off with one man. That is, I came in to run the shipping or to develop it, and the first year was pretty tough because we were doing all these acquisitions. We were putting the ships on charter. running operations. But one of the things that I did was to team up with some really great people, and Tien was one of those guys who was helping us with the deals. And to be honest, I had zero idea about how Islamic finance worked. And first call that I made to Tien, I said, Tien, what is Wakala agreement? And that's how it went about. But so we partnered with the right people, right insurers, right partners who we ended up fixing our ships to. And then we ended up developing this team, which is still very small. We've got a team of 10, mainly on the chartering and operation side, some who oversee technical management. But then we partnered with technical managers, and probably with my background, I ran technical management, commercial management, and advisory solutions before. So, I could use those resources very easily and run the business without having to immediately look at getting new talent in.
Okay. And in terms of looking forwards, what is ultimately the strategy, seeing where you are at the moment, a diversified fleet? What is the broader strategy of where commercial shipping of Seer Marine is going? So shipping always has a high barrier to entry. So when I speak to a number of owners going into shipping, they say, oh, I'm starting off, I'll get a bulker. I might get 2 bulkers. Tankers is too complicated. Gas is too expensive. You went in and started with a new building program. Those vessels were delivered last year. You've got some more coming this year. Where are you going for part 2?
Right. So to be honest, when we went and invested first into gas ships, we did partner with BGN, and they became our equity partners into this. They also chartered the ships for 10 years. So it was quite and we did have a very positive view on gas at that time. So we invested into that. Thereafter, when we went into the other new building program, which was product tankers, that was a bit speculative to start with, but we did have a view on product market at that time that we saw that the product market is going to do fairly well. And right now, all those ships are on longer term charters, so it does look that the decisions were right.
Okay, so we're in a ship finance conference. Your financings across your fleet have been a mix of traditional bank financing, UAE banks. It's included Islamic financing, and it's also including leases as well. So quite a diversified financial products that you've been involved in. When you go and speak to the financial institutions, the banks, how do you present your ask? What is it that you say to them to sort of incentivize them to speak to you, because you've only got a track record of, say, 3 years? Do you say, look who our shareholders are, or do you say, I've got a well-structured JV, or do you say, look at my contract visibility backlog? What's your approach?
I think all of that. To start with, when we embarked on our shipping journey, we were looked at one of those dark fleet operators. So not many people wanted to really speak to us. They had substantial doubts about our credibility. Of course, as I said, when we looked at our shareholders and when we look at our balance sheet, I think we have a strong balance sheet. We did also use the name of our shareholders to go out and speak to the banks. But initially, there was a lot of reluctance. And then, contrary to the panel before, we did not really see that the UAE banks were that keen to do shipping finance. So, and the international banks were not really keen to do financing with us. So it was, we were in a little bit of a situation. But then the way we kind of structured all our finance deals were to look at it more like a project finance. So that's why we went in for longer term charters immediately on the gas ships, partnered with a really good name who were equity partners into the ships, plus were taking the ships on long term charters. So when you look at it as a project finance, you have protection on the balance sheet, or they can actually get some security from there. It was the first deal was the most important deal. Thereafter, it has been a smoother journey. And on your next question, which was about going out on leasing, that was again a very strategic decision because we hadn't really diversified ourselves. We were all doing everything in UAE, and we did think that to be a proper international ship owner, we needed to go out and diversify our finance sources. So that's why we went out, and I think it was very easy to partner with Leasing. They come up with fairly good terms, and we could see that we could grow our business if we continue to partner with outside financing. So it was a bit of a difficult sell internally to start with, but I think it has all turned out well.
So it seems to me that when you speak to the banks, it's a combination of all three. It's actually quite interesting when you say, when you view it as a project financing, because one of the comments I always get is UAE banks generally are not financing shipping, but I think they are, but they may not be calling it shipping finance. So certain UAE banks are financing vessels, but they're looking at the income generated from these vessels. Okay, and it's the trade finance team or the structured trade finance teams of those UAE banks that are putting the deals together. So they're looking at it as a receivables financing transaction. Oh, okay, fine. They can take a Marshall Islands mortgage or a Liberian mortgage over the vessel. That's a value add. But in terms of getting the credit approval, in terms of getting that transaction over the line, it's packaged as a structured trade product. To me and you, and to probably everybody else in this room, it's a shipping finance transaction supported by a corporate guarantee. So so that's probably a bit more of a contrarian view about UAE banks. Not all UAE banks are not doing shipping finance, but there is finance out there from UAE banks, which may not be traditionally known as ship financiers or indeed have a energy and or marine desk. Okay. This is one of the first conferences that I've been to recently that doesn't really have green finance or decarbonization or ESG on today's agenda. So I'm going to quickly change track and move across to the decarbonization narrative. Now, I grew up in the UK. My family are from Singapore, and my great-great-grandfather was at sea. Okay, and he was at sea, and he witnessed a very important industry transformation. That from coal and steam-powered ships to fuel-powered ships, and he was an early adopter in fuel. And he made a lot of money. He made a lot of money that lasted 2 generations. The bad thing is I'm the 3rd generation. But the point is, in times of transition, there is opportunity. And the International Chamber of Shipping says that we are now going through a 4th propulsion revolution. From wind to coal, from coal to fuel oil, and from fuel oil to whichever fuel wins the race. So I'm interested in what Al Seer's view is on the future fuel and what your decarbonization journey is.
I mean, today we are living in a landscape where there are ever evolving decarbonization regulations. Every day you come across something new. Fuel EU Maritime, EU ETS, CII. I mean, everything is kind of adding to it. So to start with, we right up front, we decided to run ships which were energy efficient, which were where we could actually have an ESG element to. So when we talked about our initial new build orders, we actually went in. We did dual fuel LPG at that time because they were LPG ships. We did efficient hull form optimization, rudder bulb, Mavis ducts. All of those things which could give you a little bit of extra extra on the decarbonization journey. Okay. And then on our second hands, we ensured that those were then coated with hull efficient paints, low friction paints, silicone paints, etc. And then all the new ships, then we ended up fitting with VFDs. So everything is cumulatively adding to our decarbonization journey. So in effect, when you ask us about what is the next generation fuel that we're going to use, honestly, we haven't. We're a very small company. we haven't really decided on what we are going to do. Our new ships are all ready for methanol, LNG, and ammonia.
These are transition. Apart from ammonia, these are transitional fuels.
That is true. So those two are really transitional fuels. But then we've built our ships ready for those, but we haven't really made the call. I think we will go on that if our charterers are ready to pay for it. But I think that money is really not there. So unfortunately, we do not really see that there is any first mover advantage in doing that. And from our perspective, we will be ready for whatever the next generation fuel is, but we will not really make the call just on our own just yet.
And do you have a view of what fuel may win the race?
I think the transitional fuels are the fuels for the future. I would think just yet. LNG is there, and I think that does also have a bit of a supply chain. Ammonia does come in very strongly, but there are challenges with it. So we look at both of them. Hydrogen has always been a fuel of the future, and I think for foreseeable future will remain the fuel of the future. But though there are there are merits with it. So at the moment, not really.
Okay. Changing tack again, I'm going to talk about maritime hubs. So you spent a lot of time in Singapore. You're from Singapore, and Singapore in all the major rankings have been elevated to usually number one, okay, in terms of maritime hub, in terms of ease of doing business. And of course, the UAE, Dubai, the hubs in Abu Dhabi are also chasing, I think, that aspiration. There have been fantastic inroads that have been made. What, in your view, does Singapore do so well? And what lessons do you think we in the UAE can learn to sort of to raise our profile and to raise our ranking in these tables?
Very good question. I mean, honestly, coming from Singapore and actually having spent a lot of time with the Singapore Shipping Association, I would say Singapore provides a really good ecosystem. So where small ship owners can actually come in and thrive. So you've got the brokers, you've got the financiers, you've got the lawyers.
We have that here as well.
Yeah, true, but it's still emerging. But in Singapore, you've got all of that already there. So it becomes an easier ecosystem to start with. And then the Singapore Maritime, or MPA, is very, very keen on looking at the future. So they will have, productivity initiatives or productivity enhancement initiatives. They would spend on all of initiatives on Pier 71, which is, I'm not here to speak about Singapore, but just that here, I think that landscape is still evolving. And the other thing is the smaller ship owners are few and far between. So you've got the larger ADNOCs and Safines, but then the smaller ship owners are still, in the places where they're still growing. So it is going to take a bit of time, but I think we are at the right place. Mm-hmm. This is a very emerging shipping market, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think case in point, you are here, I'm here. We make the UAE our home. So I think that something must be right. Okay. Can we invite any questions from the audience? Does anybody have any questions for Nitin, for Seer Marine? Oh.
Is there a question from the audience, please? Yes? No? Then just one last question.
So, okay, just a very quick closing question, or maybe even two questions, Nitin, for you. In your 3 decades of shipping experience, what has been, what keeps you awake at night?
My wife.
Okay, let's finish that question.
Let me finish. My wife says, and my wife says that nothing really keeps me awake. I sleep off mid-conversation as soon as I get home. But then I think there are 3 major things that really keep me awake. One is opportunities. I think the last panel talked a lot about it. Are we looking at the right opportunities? Are we not we've not really done very much in the last year, probably because we didn't really see that there was an opportunity for us to look at, new projects, whether it was new builds or second hands, or find any other maritime opportunity. But that does we want to be decisive, but we want to be right. So it has been that does keep me awake. Second thing, I think, are we keeping up with technology or not? Because with the advent of AI in the maritime space, I think it is very important for us to be proactive than to be reactive. So I do struggle sometimes with this thought that are we creating a company which is ready for the future? Are we doing the right thing in terms of technology? And lastly, I think what really keeps me awake is the people. We are a small company. Do we have the right people? Have we invested enough in the next generation? When we look at all of ourselves, most of the leaders within our company, and I would say around here as well, we are all in our 50s or getting there. So what are we doing to have the businesses and the maritime industry ready for the next set of people who have different skill sets and do not have the same, or have different requirements from life than our generation probably had.
Excellent points. Okay, really finishing off on a positive. So with your 3 decades of experience, give me 1 or 2 highs in your experience.
So I think one of the highs is Seer Marine itself. I mean, it's an absolute pleasure to be actually leading a company which we have set up in 3 years, and to say that we are a $1 billion asset company. So in general, we're doing pretty, that has been a real high. I think the other high, I would say, in my career, I started as a humble seafarer, so I came up from there. But then the other high that I would say is I led this, I chaired the task force for the SFTF, which was the task force during COVID for crew change. That was a very difficult time. We led a task force between ICS, SSA, and ITF to enable crew change across the world. So that was a real, I would say high, but because I thought that I could contribute to the wider industry as such. So I think those 2 are real highs in my career. And then my previous companies have been pretty good as well.
Fantastic. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, Nitin, the man with the golden touch, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.